Welcome to another jam-packed episode of Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the now chilly and very, very cold confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. Happy to be back with you guys with another jam-packed episode. Happy New Year, first and foremost. This is the first episode of New Year for the show, for the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I hope your 2026 has started off as well as mine has. May God bless you going into this year. I hope your family is safe and sound. Definitely anticipated this show. A lot of content to really go over. A lot of things I really wanted to touch on. This episode will be episode 157, a week 17, week 18 recap. We're going to be touching on a couple of the week 17 games. I only covered two of them. A lot of week 18 content, playoff bracket, coaches getting fired, a lot of things to unpack. But as always, before we do, we want to make sure we give a shout out to several friends of the show. Obviously, StubHub and Viagogo, the number one and number two leading ticket sellers in the world for live event shows and concerts. Definitely implore you to check that out right now. The link will be in the description box of this video. Also, if you're looking to protect your software, computer, PC, I know I do a lot of work from home work. A lot of times I have to take my stuff out of the house with me wherever I may go. Sometimes you just never know. You may leave your stuff unlocked, accidentally not paying attention, and then boom, you got a virus, and now your software is compromised, your information, more importantly, your data is compromised. So definitely check out Malwarebytes, number one software protector in the world for PCs, laptops, anything that you need to really protect your data and your information. Malwarebytes is the guys to go to. And last but not least, for my avid gamers out there, definitely check out the link for Sony PlayStation Direct. If you guys are looking to add any games, accessories, new system, whatever you want to do to enhance the start of your 2026, I implore you to check it out. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. All right, guys, so we're going to hop right into this episode. Like I said, week 17 was pretty tame. The Ravens, I covered the Ravens-Packers game. I did a quick video about it. Obviously, Derrick Henry ran for a cajillion yards. I think it was 200 plus yards in that game. Completely snuffed out the Packers. Really snuffed out the performance of Malik Willis and what he was able to provide for the Packers in that game. Like I said, that was a good one, but essentially Derrick Henry stole the show and spotlight with that game, winning 41-24 at Lambeau, setting up a chance for them to have that epic clash with the Steelers for the AFC North Championship, which I'll definitely get into that game next. Then, of course, you had Bears and 49ers, which was just an amazing fucking football game. A rare shootout that you really get at the end of the year. 49ers able to pull it out 42-38. Essentially, Caleb Williams not coming through late in the game again. Short mailing a pass. Not sure how Luther Burden really looked. He got injured in the play. Now, he did play yesterday in the game against the Lions, but nonetheless, they lost the game that they really could have won and just didn't really play well. But again, great performance by both teams. It was an offensive shootout. But this all leads into week 18, into the epic clashes that were, some division games and some just random games. But we're going to start with the game that has everybody's attention and hearts and minds right now, and that would be the Ravens versus Steelers. What a fucking clash. I mean, I must admit, watching the first half of that game, you just thought, okay, if you didn't know anything about the season, you didn't know anything about the stats, you didn't know anything about how the Steelers are a second half football team, you would have just automatically assumed the Ravens were going to win this game. But the Ravens do Ravens, type things, and they just get in their way consistently. Their own way, that is. Got to give a shout out to the Steelers defense. They played fast. They played physical. They didn't look great at certain points in the game, but overall, I thought the performance from them was outstanding. I mean, when you take into account that you're playing a division rival, and this game is to go to the playoffs. I mean, it's win a division, go to the playoffs. All that being said, it comes down to you winning a 2-point game because you miss an extra point from a kicker who hasn't missed a fucking extra point in 8 years. I mean, it's crazy. And then to get downfield in a situation where Lamar Jackson finds likely on that 4th and 7, you put the team in position and they're just unable to capitalize because Luke misses the field goal. Now, there was some argument that there was leveraging on the play. Be that as it may, 44-yard field goal is very makeable in this day and age. Tyler Loop has to feel like shit today. I'm pretty sure that the team is offering them words of encouragement. I know Derrick Henry has spoke out about it, but looking back at it, The Ravens, again, the Ravens defense not being able to generate a pass rush, it cost them. I mean, the first half, they were stifling. I mean, they were absolutely torturing the fucking Pittsburgh Steelers. I gotta give Baltimore credit in that first half. They were prepared. Derrick Henry, I mean, hell, at halftime, I think he had 115 rushing yards. So, I mean, it just showed you like the offensive attack and onslaught that they were presenting for Pittsburgh. And you were starting to think Pittsburgh wasn't going to wake up and put it together. But lo and behold, you started to see Aaron Rodgers run a little bit more, some desperation set in, and the Ravens and these fucking turnovers. I mean, you got Lamar with an interception, costly. I mean, let's just call that for what it is. No fumbles, but how many times are we going to have these turnovers and key points of the game where your team needs momentum and then you do some shit like that? I mean, it's inexplicable. Now, Lamar had an amazing game. He was 11-18, 238 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, pass rating of 121. So I'm not killing him. I mean, Derrick Henry had 126 rushing yards, but it's just the same old things. And I mean, then you go to the penalties. We're going to scroll down here because I'm looking at the stat sheet from the game book. Let's see here. Penalties. My God. You had 9 for 78. I mean, and they're never the little penalties. They're always huge, inexplicable penalties that put the Ravens in shitty situations. In comparison to the Steelers, who were 5 penalties for 45 yards, played a pretty decent game. But this is really, to me, the tail of the tape. Third down efficiency. Ravens were 4 of 12. Steelers were 9 of 16. Now, both teams went for it on 4th down. Steelers didn't convert one early in the game. They converted one later. Ravens converted both of their 4th downs, crucial ones at that. It just came down to the little things. This Ravens team, though, has been mediocre all season. They have played like a team that has just not really figured it out. This honestly spells for me, and it's funny because you went into this game saying whoever lost has to create wholesale change and really make, adjustments. I think it's pretty indicative that you have to get rid of John Harbaugh. I mean, you've gone 18, almost 19 years with him as the head coach. You've underperformed with Lamar Jackson. You haven't really, I think he's reached a plateau. I mean, that AFC Championship game a couple years ago, that might have been the ceiling. But who knows? I mean, it's a crazy situation because, honest to God truth, nobody in their mind would have thought that Tyler Luke was going to miss that kick. I even thought, okay, this is going to be one of the situations where Steelers going to lose a heartbreaker. Tomlin's going to be getting, the ridicule. I mean, you saw Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith going at it on the sidelines. I mean, it didn't look good, but it has to speak for something about persistence, mental toughness. Something has to be spoken for that because ultimately, I don't give a fuck what you have to say. The Steelers are always prepared. And for all those people that are always quick to try to fire Mike Tomlin, they really need to really evaluate how a team is built, how a roster is developed, how a culture is set. And then once things like that are really evaluated, I don't think people will be so quick to clamor for his exit from Pittsburgh because, in all honesty, who the fuck are you going to bring in there to replicate the work or do better than what he's done? At this point right now, there's no one that you could bring in that could do that. The expectations would be too high. And let's just call it for what it is. Yeah, we don't really believe that person will really succeed that well. So Pittsburgh, you're in the playoffs. You got the Texans. It's going to be an interesting matchup there. And Baltimore, I think it's time to hit the reset button. Going next to the Seahawks and 49ers. This game was a Saturday night game. This game was kind of crazy. I expected it to be a lot more high scoring than what it was, but essentially it was a classic division matchup. The Seahawks were able to pull out the victory 13-3. I mean, the stats ultimately would tell you a part of the story. I mean, Sam Darnold was hella efficient, 20-26, 198 yards. But really the difference in this game was the Seahawks' ability to run the ball efficiently and the fact that their defense was fucking tenacious against the San Francisco 49ers. Let me say this now. As long as Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are healthy, they give the Seattle Seahawks a chance to beat anybody in the NFC. Now, obviously, I'm going to pick my Eagles over the Seahawks naturally, but being fair and impartial, they could beat anybody when those running backs are healthy. honestly, they play as a team. They play fast. They play physical. They gave the Niners hell. And you got to keep into account, the Niners has scored a shitload of points going into that game against Seattle. I mean, to literally muster up 3 points and to have Brock Purdy and that rushing offense, I mean, they took McCaffrey the fuck away. They made sure he was not going to be a deciding factor in this game. It showed you too where the 49ers, their defense is not as good against the run as I probably thought they were at one point in the year. But just to give you an idea of the points that they scored in their last 5 games going into this game, we're going to go all the way back to November 30th. 26, 37, 48, 42. They scored 3 points. Now, Brock Purdy got a little banged up at the end of the game. They said he was all right. You're going into a game where you got to win, chance for you to get the number 1 seed, chance for you to lock up a top spot and have, home field advantage, run through San Francisco. Ironically, the spot of the Super Bowl seemed like a good proposition, but they just really couldn't muster and put it together. Now they got Philadelphia in the first round of playoffs. It's going to be very interesting for the 49ers because it's not that the 49ers aren't good enough or aren't capable of beating Philadelphia, but the flaws that they have really bode well again in that matchup against Philly. They can't stop the run. They can't really, rush the quarterback. That's another thing too. So that really is a tricky situation. We'll see as the week plays out, but 49ers really shit the bed against Seattle. And Seattle locked up the number 1 seed. So in my opinion, Seattle just proved how legit they were. We'll see what happens with San Francisco against Philadelphia 4:30 Sunday in the wild card round. But what a way to end the regular season if you're the 49ers. Definitely a disappointment. Definitely a disappointment. And last but not least, we're going to touch on the Panthers and Bucs, which that game, minus some minor officiating calls that I felt like were just kind of a bit screwy. It was a good game. Kind of messy because of the rain, but essentially the Panthers were able to make the playoffs, but lost the game. Going a little bit ahead of myself. Buccaneers won 16-14 in the matchup. However, in the end, it really didn't matter because of the Atlanta Falcons victory against the New Orleans Saints, the Panthers still able to make the playoffs. And thank God they were able to backdoor it because there were some weird calls that went against them in this game, some moments that they definitely wanted back. First and foremost, starting out 3 and out, if you're the Panthers, Leggett not catching that pass, not really being efficient, the rain coming down kind of hard. You see guys weren't used to, I don't know if it was just the rain was coming down so hard guys couldn't catch the ball. Maybe Bryce Young wasn't putting a good angle on some of the passes. It just, the offense was out of whack for Carolina to begin the game. Mike Evans was making a difference early in the game, but, the OG at this point, he's only going to do but so much. But again, 2 catches, 34 yards. They were big catches early in the game, but that was pretty much it for him for the rest of the day. Both teams were getting very chippy. A lot of shit popping between Baker Mayfield and some of the Panthers defenders and vice versa. We knew it was an old-fashioned NFC South game, and it was going to come down to who was going to make the right play and the necessary play. Fast forwarding a bit, to essentially the fourth quarter, you had a turnover. Baker Mayfield has a horrible turnover. Rosebloom catches an amazing interception from against Baker Mayfield. It seemed like the Panthers defense woke up at that point. The game had kind of changed. Bryce then throws a bad interception. It seemed like him and Baker were just like, again, it came down to who was not going to make the most egregious mistake late. But when Tampa had to settle for that field goal and it was still, a 6-point game, you just kind of felt like maybe if Carolina could get something going late, they could really do it. Big completion to Ted McMillan late on that 4th and 8, 40-yard completion, really puts the Panthers in position to really score and win the game. They score on a Jalen Coker, touchdown pass, but it was really the blocked field goal. The blocked field goal early in that sequence was really what saved the Panthers and had them in a contention to win. But like I said, the refs had some questionable calls in this game that I really felt like didn't bode well for Carolina. The referees have been fucking horrible throughout the year. I'm not sure why, what exactly it is, but it needs to be fucking fixed. It's very egregious at this point where you're watching teams play for playoff position. You got referees making calls that don't really make sense in those necessary moments. not sure exactly what was going on there, but that essentially was the game. But like I said, it really didn't matter because the Panthers were still able to make it to the playoffs via the Falcons' victory. So amazing there in itself. Now, going to the playoff bracket, I think the most interesting thing right now is the matchups that you have this coming weekend, obviously wildcard weekend. Starting in the NFC, you're going to have two matchups Sunday. You got Carolina versus the Rams. Everybody's going to be expecting the Rams to win that game, especially after Carolina upset them a couple weeks ago in the regular season. You got Green Bay and Chicago. I think Green Bay is going to be definitely looking for redemption in that game. Losing that last game against Chicago the way that they did after, pretty much having it wrapped up and turnover late, just a bunch of crazy things. I think the Packers' preference was to get a division rival instead of having to play a Philadelphia or maybe, a different team, Philly or somebody else in that spot. Now that they're actually going to be able to play the Bears, I think that bodes well for the Packers. Spoke briefly on the Eagles and 49ers. I think that's going to be a great game. Now, AFC. This is where things really get interesting. You have the Bills versus the Jaguars. My gut tells me that the Bills are going to win this game, but I would not be shocked if Jacksonville somehow, some way was resilient enough to pull it out, because I think a lot of people have slept on Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is a lot better than Buffalo's this year. I think Jacksonville has better playmakers than Buffalo does. However, Buffalo has Josh Allen, and as long as you have Josh Allen, you have a shot. So going to be interested there to see that. That game will be on 1 o'clock on the 11th, which I believe is a Sunday. And then you have, yes, it's a Sunday. So then you have the Chargers and Patriots, which that's going to be the 8 o'clock game that Sunday. I think that game is going to be electric. You got Harbaugh. You got a Harbaugh team going up against a Mike Vrabel team. Physical matchup. Drake May has been an MVP candidate this year. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Justin Herbert looking to redeem himself after some of the playoff blunders he's had, especially the one last year. So definitely jam-packed there to see. But I think that's a game that is a game you might have to circle as my early bet. Sorry to say this, New England. I got the Chargers upsetting you on that one. But last but not least, Houston and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won a tough game to get into the playoffs, physical matchup. They're going to be home playing Houston. I got to admit, I don't trust them. I got Houston to win that first round matchup. I think Houston vanquished a lot of demons getting over Kansas City this year, beating some of the teams in the AFC that they did. I think it's really going to be a good matchup, though. Defensively, both teams are top notch. But if CJ Stroud, see how the weather may be in those games, but if CJ Stroud can put it together, I really think that bodes well for the Houston Texans in that matchup. And obviously, Denver in the AFC and Seattle in the NFC, both number one seeds. They both have first round byes. So playoff bracket is set. Definitely looking forward to this weekend and to see how things may shape out. And last but not least, we're going to wrap up with coaching firings. Yes, guys, it is Black Monday. We all knew this day was coming. I will definitely have a recap video for all the coaches that were fired, but just a quick rundown on the most obvious names. Obviously, Pete Carroll. This was pretty self-explanatory. Hiring Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator, not being able to get a Matt Stafford or Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, having to settle for Geno Smith, not really making all the great and necessary moves for that roster to be better. It was pretty self-explanatory. Once he admitted the team was rebuilding, I don't see how you could even think about bringing him back. Second, Jonathan Gannon. I personally take joy in this because this fucker, in my opinion, cost us a Super Bowl. And for him to flame out the way he has in Arizona, it makes me feel good. It justifies, it makes the loss against the first Kansas City Super Bowl, and that loss, it makes that feel a bit better watching him lose his job, I must admit. Kevin Stefanski was obviously let go. This one I think was pretty self-explanatory. How in the hell did you, out of all the things that get mismanaged, you sat Shador throughout most of the season. He showed spots of being a rookie, but showed a lot of hype and promise too. You didn't really play him soon enough. Dylan Gabriel was too damn small for the position. Played efficient, but very just underwhelming. You didn't really have an answer for the starting quarterback position. Your defense was literally your saving grace, but that's not even your bread and butter. So again, it was just kind of the writing on the wall. I mean, a lot of these firings were self-explanatory. And then last but not least, Raheem Morris. I mean, you undercoached this team. I mean, I know he only had 2 years with this team, but let's be honest. With that roster, for you to go 4-1 in primetime games and you not to win your division because of incompetency, bad play calling, putting guys in bad situations, somebody's got to bite the bullet for that. So be that as it may, Black Monday for a lot of those coaches. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you guys for always plugging in. Like I said, I will have a recap video for Black Friday, end of the season, coaches that got fired, and what does that mean for the teams going forward. Also, I have an Eagles recap video coming out as well, so definitely stay tuned for that. Take care, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.